Are you on 1?
So the sensors aren't, a lot of people call this decay detection testing. That's not strictly true. So what this is telling us is wood density and load-bearing capacity. And wood density can be compromised by decay, absolutely. And that's very commonly what you're detecting when you're doing this. But you can also run into situations where you have compromised load-bearing capacity inside of a tree because, say, it's 2 trunks that actually fused and you have included bark in between those. That sound wave is going to be slowed down when it hits that bark. So you're going to get a reading of compromised load-bearing capacity inside that tree. And that's the point where it's nice to have your resistance drill, because this can't differentiate. This can tell me there is either reduced wood density, which this pattern, this is decay. And easy because we can see it.
Yeah.
If we didn't see anything on the outside based on some of the seams on this tree, if I was getting like a crazy reading, I would actually suspect maybe we're looking at some kind of a seam inside, or it could be a crack, because cracks will also interrupt. Yeah. So like I did a redwood the other day where I was like I think it was 3 young redwoods that fused over like 80 years. I'm getting a reading in the base, and I at the time didn't have the resi with me and had to recommend, like, I think you should follow up. Like, I can't differentiate. The structure looks like this is multiple trunks. Like, I don't see any signs of decay. Yeah, so, but yeah, this is very obviously likely decay, and this pattern matches with what we're seeing over there too. So that opening is between 14 and 15, and that's what I usually try and do, is get a sensor on each side of the wound so that we can say, like, hey, look, this is probably where it started, and this is how far it's progressed into the tree.
Got it.
So this is a nice straightforward tree. There's some weird ones out there. Yeah. This one's nice, straightforward.
You're not going to find some buried treasure.
He'll go up there with the babies and get them back in. So super cool. So that's how I met Merlin. But yeah, Merlin was at the conference and he knows Nate. And cool. Nate wound up being like, oh, hey, it's... This is some of the adjustments that I make. So this is the stat screen, and this is basically like every single reading.
Okay.
So the reason that Rentec changed the software so that you can look at this and you can adjust is because what you're wanting is the bulk of the readings. You're going to get outliers sometimes.
Right, I see.
You're going to get a reading that for some reason hit a knot and took a weird turn.
I see.
And that sound wave was received slower.
Right.
So when you have like some of these outliers here, this little guy here, and some of these top outliers here, we want most of it, but we do want to not consider a couple of these.
I see.
Not the highs and lows.
So you eliminate them.
Yes. So I'm able, if I can find my cursor, I'm able to say, okay, you know, I'd like to, actually I'm going to go right about here on this one. Well, we'll go right about here.
Yep, and that changed the picture,
I'll come right about here on this one. And it changes, sometimes it changes a lot depending on if you're getting a lot of outliers. I have had where it's just a tight chunk and then a couple scattered.
I see, yeah.
And it does make a huge difference.
Right.
So when you're not able to look at this, when you're not able to do that, usually your readings indicate things are far more severe.
Sure.
They wound up doing that over time, was looking at the reading, looking at what happened when it was cut down, and saying, we need to make some adjustments.
That's how all good science works.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so this one's interesting. So we can see this is the cavity that we can see. This is that little seam.
Yep.
It is more severe here. So the red is indicating more significant, or a more significant loss of density. But we also have this dip in between sensors 2 and 3 on this side where there's a little seam, and we do see some density reduction here as well. The yellow. So it's minor, but it is there. Because even if it's minor now, right? That is part of the consideration. Is over time, decay is never going to go away. It's never going to get better. It is going to progress, so it will get worse. That's what we can count on. It's a guarantee. It's a matter of how fast sometimes. I don't expect it to be extremely fast in this case. This isn't like the cubicle brown rot that I was seeing, which can move very aggressively, very aggressively sometimes. So I don't feel like that's the case here.
Okay.
which is good.
I'm wondering if that cutout you had anything to do with that hollow sound that you hit on this back corner at all.
Oh, when I was
That's kinda
sounding,
neat.
yeah, there's some interesting spots. It's hard when you have the thicker bark. I mean, you guys know if you work in trees, right? When you get that really thick bark, and you're just like, I
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
dude. Like, I'm not getting anything for trying to sound this thing.
Yeah.
And there were a few spots definitely when I was kind of checking the right here at the corners of that cavity where you could hear it for sure.
Yeah.
But almost the rest of it, it's like.
Cool.
I got holes when I. Yep, they're wet.
They're kind of more seasonal.